Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Joffrey Noodle Legs here today with another Noodle film review. Today we're looking at the classic The Name of the Rose. If I remember right, I did do a review of this on my channel about 6 months ago, but obviously I've sort of like made my reviews a bit more in depth since then, so I thought I'd have another look at this one because it's one of my favourites. This is the Blu-ray release. I believe it's European, it could be British, I'm not sure, but I've never seen it at any store. I picked this up on Amazon, so if you are looking for the Blu-ray, I think Amazon's the place to pick it up. This is starring Sean Connery and a very young Christian Slater. This take you little synopsis. I think this is around sort of like 1640s, something like that. It's sort of like the medieval times in Europe, in the sort of like Spain and Italy. And we join Sean Connery, who's like a monk, with his sort of like trainee monk, Christian Slater, and they've headed to this monastery.
May my hand not tremble now that I start to relive the past and revive the feelings of uneasiness that oppressed my heart as we entered the battlements.
So they've arrived at this monastery to investigate some sort of like strange goings that's going on in the monastery. And some of the sort of like head monks of the monastery are sort of discussing to each other should they involve him with the investigations. I believe his name's William in the film.
Dear brethren, I leave such worldly matters to younger men.
Agile.
Yes, Master?
In order to command nature, one must first learn to obey it. So, return to the forecourt, skirt the edificium on your left, enter the quadrangle on your right, and there you'll find the place you're in need of, behind the third arch.
So as you can see, William of Baskerville and his young lad have settled into the room, and William looks out the window and he sees that there's a fresh grave there. Then the head sort of priest or monk or whatever of the monastery comes to sort of like greet and speak to William in his room.
Pax vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo.
On behalf of the Benedictine Order, I am honored to welcome you and your Franciscan brothers to our abbey.
The other delegates, they have arrived.
Ubertino de Casali has been here for some weeks. The others are due tomorrow.
So you can see that the head monk is looking a bit sort of like yeah, out of sort, not real. You know, you can see that he wants to speak to him, but you know, should he or shouldn't he? Anyway, so William then asks him about the grave, that's the new grave in the graveyard.
Yes, a terrible loss. Brother Adamo was one of our finest illuminators.
Not Adelmo of Otranto.
You knew him?
No, but I knew and admired his work. His humor and comic images were almost infamous. But he was said to be a very young man.
Oh, yes. Yes, very young indeed.
Then William of Baskerville can sort of like has picked up that he wants to tell him something, so he sort of like speaks to him in confidence.
Brother William, may I speak with you candidly?
You seem most anxious to do so.
When I heard you were coming to our abbey, I thought it was an answer to my prayers. Here I said to myself, it's a man who has knowledge both of the human spirit and of the wiles of the evil one. The fact is, Brother Adelmo's death has caused much spiritual unease among my flock.
This is my novice, Adjo, the youngest son of the Baron of Melk.
And then the young apprentice arrives back in the room, and William Baskerville says, "Well, you can speak in front of him. He's my understudy, sort of thing." And so he carries on and tells him about the death of this monk, which is under sort of suspicious circumstances.
After a hailstorm, horribly mutilated, dashed against a rock at the foot of the tower, under a window which was, how shall I say this?
Which was found closed.
Somebody told you.
Had it been found open, you would not have spoken of spiritual unease. You would have concluded that he'd fallen.
Brother William, the window cannot be opened. Nor is the glass shattered. Nor is there any access to the roof.
I see. And because you cannot find a natural explanation, your monks suspect the presence of a supernatural force within these walls.
That's why I need the counsel of an acute man such as you, Brother William.
We then jump to the main sort of church part of the monastery, where they go to meet one of the elders, and he's supposedly supposed to have been, like, some of them look at him as a prophet and others look at him as like a heretic.
That is Robertino de Casale, one of the great spiritual leaders of our order.
So they approach over to him and they go over to greet him.
Fellow Franciscans, you must leave this place at once. The devil is roaming this abbey.
Robertino, it's William. William of Baskerville.
William? No. William is dead. William, my son, forgive me. We have lost trace of you for so long.
We'll then join our two lads outside of the in the sort of monastery grounds. The young apprentice Christian Slater said he doesn't like it there, and William Baskerville said, "Well, I quite like it. It's something about it." And I think they're going to have a look around to see where the sort of like the body was found of the young monks that was sort of like they found dead.
I find it most stimulating. Come. My dear Adjo, we must not allow ourselves to be influenced by irrational rumors of the Antichrist. Let us instead exercise our brains and try to solve this tantalizing conundrum.
So we then catch up with them outside the monastery, and they find, because I think the body has fallen right from the top of the tower and right down to the outside, and they're trying to investigate if he was, sort of killed or committed suicide or whatever. So they're around there investigating.
generous donation by the church to the poor. Now, what if it wasn't that tower that he fell from, but somewhere over there, and then the body rolled all the way down here? That's all.
So they're investigating, and I think at this point, William thinks it's a suicide. He's a little bit like a sort of a monk, sort of detective, if you like. The story of him gets unfolded throughout the film, which is really cool. We didn't jump to the evening where we see the sort of blind monk that we saw earlier, with a younger monk who's reading from a book from the library.
Eo quod in multa sapientia, multa sit indignatio, et quia adit scientiam adit et laborum.
And so he's reading from the book and he's finding some sort of things and they're quite amusing, which the elder is not very happy about. We then cut to the morning. So we see the monks doing their normal chant, their Gregorian chant, which is a sort of Italian-based sort of prayer that the monks did, not just in Italy but all monks around the world. They all speak and sort of like sing in that sort of Gregorian chant tongue. Anyway, whilst they're doing that, it's interrupted by someone running into the chapel.
This one, my grandchildren, did not commit suicide.
So as you can see, they all went outside and they went to like the area where the animals are kept, and they found in one of the big pots of sort of pig's blood. Obviously, they use the pig's blood for many things, some sort of foods and stuff. But they found a body in there, and it's the body of the young lad that was laughing at or sort of chuckling at that book. So now they've got two dead bodies. And that's all I'm going to tell you. So what's happening? I mean, who's killing these young lads off, and what's the deal with this book? And it's like, are these two going to find out the bottom of it, or are they not going to be successful? Where the other monks have to call in the Inquisition to come and sort it out. So what do I think of the film? The film is incredible. It's an amazing film. It's a story of sort of it's a religious undertones, obviously, but it's got sort of like, there's a bit about witchcraft, about heretics. There's all sorts of things going on at this thing. It's a sort of semi kind of medieval slasher. Because the people start getting killed off, and they need to investigate to find out who's doing it. The characters are really cool in it. I love them all, and it's a really, really cool engrossing, gripping movie. Yes, it's quite a slow burn, but it's worth it because the story is fantastic. If you like films like um, the Ninth Gate, films like that, which are quite slow burns, you will love this. It's very sort of similar, but this is more medieval. You know, this is based in medieval times, so the costumes are fantastic, um, and it's really really cool. Um, I just love any sort of film that's to deal with sort of witchcraft or heresy. You know, I just do. I just think it's such a sort of like taboo subject that because a lot of people quite around the world are very religious, aren't they? And Christian religion and all different sort of religions around the world, and they've all got their own sort of heresies and witchcrafts, and I find all that sort of fascinating. And this is delves deep into it, and it delves into about a book, and there's a little sub story going on in the film between the young lad and a poor sort of girl lives in the poor sort of village, and a little sub story comes along with that, which is really really important, um, which is really really cool too. So the pluses of the film, the transfer is amazing. It looks really cool. It's still got its grain. This was made in the 80s, and it's still got the grain. There was a remake done. Again, I've not watched it. I don't want to watch it. I like the original movies, so I'm sticking to this one. It's fantastic. The characters are excellent. It's really well acted. It's believable. There's some great cast members in there that just come out of nowhere. You see Ron Perlman, he's in there, who went on to become Hellboy and all these sort of films. He's in there. He plays a hunchback, a heretic hunchback. It's got like witchcraft burnings in there. It's got all sorts of things happening, and it's and the Inquisition comes in, and he's really quite evil. And they were merciless. They were like witch hunters, like like a bit like the little bit like the Vincent Price film, Witch Hunter General. They were like them, the Inquisition. They were part of the church that investigated any sort of like supernatural or witchcraft sort of things within the church to iron them out. And they were merciless. They used to torture people and kill them and all sorts of things with no real evidence, really. So there's all that in there, and there's a mystery over this book, and it really plays out like a medieval Sherlock Holmes. And it's a fantastic horror movie. It is a horror film because it's quite a horrible story. It's a slasher. It's like a horror slasher to me. I say because it's killings going on, and they're investigating it to find out who's doing them. There is a little bit of gore in the film, which is quite cool, which is fantastic. So the negatives of the film, it is a slow burn. It is a very sort of slow burn, but it's one of those films you have to watch and listen to the story and really listen to it and sort of like, because it grips you, and then you think, oh my god, yeah, I wonder what's happening. What's the deal with this book? Who's that weird bald guy and stuff like this? You just want to find out what happens, and it's a really, really amazing film. Excellent film. So I'm going to score it an essential watch and give it a 10 out of 10 because it's perfect. It's got a perfect story. The costumes and setting is fantastic. Great music. I love the Gregorian chant as well, which is amazing. And it's just a great watch. It's a serious horror movie. You know what I mean? Not like a sort of a sort of like gore fest or silly comedy. This is like a no comedy. Well, there is a little bit of comedy in there, but it's more like an investigation sort of Sherlock Holmes sort of humour. But it is like a really good sort of Sherlock Holmes horror slasher movie. I say any way I can describe it. Set in medieval Europe. Please watch this film, The Name of the Rose. It's fantastic. It's based on a famous book by Umberto Eco, which I haven't read because the book is like that thick, and I've never had that amount of time to devote to one book, sadly, because life's always quite busy. But it is based on a book, so if you're not into movies, check out the novel and see what you think of that. 10 out of 10, The Name of the Rose. If any of you guys seen it, if you have, let me know down below what you thought of it. I thought it was incredible, amazing, and there is just not enough of these type of movies. There's just not enough of them, where they're sort of like really sort of like not serious, but it yeah, they're serious films. So they're like a proper film, but a horror film, and I just love these sort of things, you know. A bit like The Omen and things like that, which the serious films. They're not like sort of like any sort of just made out of rubbish acting or silly gore or silly plots, you know, silly teens doing things they shouldn't. It's not like that. It's a proper sort of like story, and because it's historic, you think, and you know this sort of thing went on. This sort of thing went on, and so it got like that sort of true base behind it. But it's really really cool, guys. Check out some horror channels. Before my next video, if you can, check out Horror Hands, The Horror Geek, Man v Film, RS Designs, Pizzlewell, I Am the Ice Lord, and Sarah of Horror. All great channels, guys. Until next time, you look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.